So basically, I feel that like you have gone through the basics of UiPath, where you have downloaded UiPath, where you have seen some basics related to variables and all, and also the collection variables, which consists of string, a boolean, integer, and data time variables. And in terms of the collection, we have might seen about list, array, and also dictionary, right? And we have seen also some part of like string operations and all, where we have done some operations on the strings, where we can actually split, where we can actually find the index, where you can get the substring, get the length, convert your lowercase to uppercase, all these things, right? So there is one type of collection variable where we can store a number of values. It's a data table. Data table is a collection variable where we can store the data in form of a rows and columns. Okay, so let's say that you go to a website, you read some data, so the data will be stored in where? A string variable. But let's say that I just want to read the data where that was in terms of rows and columns, so then it will be basically stored in a data table. So a basic example is whenever you want to read some Excel, the data that will be stored in a variable type is basically data table. Okay, so the output of reading the data from an Excel, it will be stored in basically data table. Okay, so that's a basic definition. I can say data table, it's a combination of rows and columns. Whenever you want to store the data in form of rows and columns, it's data table. So I'll just go from the basic here. I'll just create a flowchart. Today let's try to understand something on data table part. I'll search with an activity called data table. So when we are searching with the data table activities, in the activity panel, we have all these activities, right? So we have add data column, add row, build data table, clear data table, filter, for each row in a data table, generate data table from text. So let's try to understand this first set of activities. Build data table will help us in creating a data table. So when you want to add a column or add a row, we can try to use add data column, add data row. Clear data table is to just remove all the items from that. Basically, to have an understanding from the scratch, we'll try to build a data table. I'll remove the existing columns here. So I'll try to create columns called name. I'll try to create another column called gender. And the third one is about the location. Okay. These are the three columns I want to just add with. I'll add values called Kiran, male, location is Hyderabad. I'll add another value called Sai, male, HYD. Priya, female, some Bangalore. Sudha, from Hyderabad. And finally, I'll go with Sam, male with Bangalore. Okay. So if we can see here, basically how many rows of data we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 rows of data and 3 columns here. Its name, gender, and location. If you consider the index, here the index starts from 0. It's 0, 1, and 2. So the name of the particular column here, it starts with 0 and it ends with this 2 here. On the here index starts from 0, it ends with 4. Basically, we have 5 rows of data. Okay. So after creating this particular small schema here, what I'll do, I'll try to save it in a data table called DT1. Right? I'll just store the value in the DT1. I'll go back to my designer panel. I have created a build data table. Build data table helps us in creating a schema here. Okay, creates a data table according to the specified schema. Here my schema is basically a name, a gender, and location. So I'll just use a small message box to have the data table rows and columns printed. I'll just try to print the number of rows and the number of columns. So rows, we can print using pt1 dot rows dot count. Okay, so this is the method we'll try to use. And let's say that I want to print that in a new line. I'll go with like vbcrlf is a function which helps me to print the value in the second column, second line. Okay, new line. I want to get the column count, so I'll say like columns. I'll go with place dt1 dot columns dot count dot string. Basically, I'm just trying to print the number of rows, number of columns, basically that was created in your data table. Okay, let me save the file. Click on run file. It will just give me like 3 columns and 5 rows, like 5 rows and 3 columns. Okay, so we have like 5 rows and 3 columns of data. So let's say that I just want to print the same data table in a message box. Let's try to see what happens if we just pass the dt1 here. So the system will not, or the robot will not understand that it's a data table. It needs to print the schema there, whatever we have like name, gender, and location. It will just give me system not data table as an outcome here, which I don't want. Okay, and it says this is just like a table name, right? But I want the whole data table to be printed. So we have another activity called output data table, where we can convert basically your data table to a string variable. Okay, so your input is basically a data table dt1, and your output is basically a string variable. So control K str var. Okay, control K str. So once you created a string variable, I'll try to just print that here in this say box. Just here var. You go to the main screen, hit save button, and just try to run the file. Okay, you have 5 rows and 3 columns, and then you have like this is the data. This is a schema you getting printed where you have name, gender, location with Kiran, Sai, Priya, Sudha, and Sam. Right now, let's try to go with other activity. Add data column. So what I'll do, I'll just drag this activity a bit down. I'll use and data column here. So in the properties, I'll say that in which data table you want to add. I want to add it in dt1. What's the column name you want to add? I want to add something called country. Okay, that's a column. And here, the type of the argument you want to add is basically a string. Okay, and if you just go to the properties, here we have a default value. So let me just create a default value for India. So for all the rows, the column value will be basically India here. Okay. So before adding and after adding, let's try to get the count even. Let's try to save, try to run the file. That data column will basically add a column in the specified data table you want to add. So we're just adding a country and the value is like India. So yeah, before adding it was 5 rows and 3 columns, but after adding the particular column, it was like 5 rows and 4 columns. And if you can see the schema here, earlier you have only name, gender, and location, but now you have even the country with India as a default value. Okay, Now let's say that I just want to delete this gender male. I mean like gender, it's not male. It's like gender I want to delete. How can I do that? So we have seen like how to add a column, right? But now let me just show you how to delete a column. So we have an activity called remove data column. Okay. In the remove data column, we just need to provide in which data type you want to delete, dt1, and which column name you want to delete. I'll just go with the gender, or else even you can provide the column number also. Column number is basically 0, 1, and 2. So here I just want to go with any one of the things, either with the column number or the column name. I'll just go with the column name here. So let me just comment out the particular message boxes in terms of rows count and the columns count, which I don't want to execute. You can just go with the control D, where you can just comment out the particular activity inside your workflow, right? So here I just want to basically run my file where it will give me name, location, and country. The column gender is basically deleted, right? It gives only like name, location, and the country. So we are not able to see the other value, which is basically the gender, right? That is how we can just remove the columns here in terms of data table. So till now we have seen how to build a data table where you can create a schema, convert your data table to string variable, and just print it in a message box using output data table, add a column using add data column, remove a column using remove data column. And we have also seen how to get the rows count and the columns count using data table dot rows count method as well as data table dot columns count. Okay, are we clear till now? Please do let me have any queries. You can just ping me in the chat window, or else like you
So
can
is
just
it,
unmute yourself. Yes, please.
yeah, yeah, is it possible that we can delete that or we can remove that particular value presently in the data table, like let's say row 2 and column 1? Is it possible?
Yeah, we can do that. We can.
And how? Show me.
Yeah, yeah, I'll show that. I'll show that. Different sources like Excel and other database also will work. So what are the data source like Excel and other database also will work? Yeah, basically whenever the data was there in the form of rows and column, you can just try to go with this particular values here, where after reading the data, your data is basically stored in a data table here. Okay. To answer your question, Akash, like we can just try to go with that particular scenario when we are trying to discuss the Excel activities and all, where you can just replace a particular cell value and all based on the particular row and the column value. Like let's say that in the column 2, I want to replace a row 1 value. So, or else in the column 3, you want to replace a row 0 value. So that we can do. So I'll just show you when it was in terms of the Excel activity. Okay.
Sure, sure.
So now let me just go with the other activities like adding a row and row. Okay. So I just keep all these activities with the side. I just go with the add data row where I just want to add the row here. So whenever you want to add a row, you need to make sure that you're remembering your particular schema. It was a name, gender, and location. And we just click on add row. We have an array option here. So I just need to provide the schema here. What is the values you want to go? So let's say that I want to go with John and he is of male. Location is Bangalore. Okay. This is how I just need to provide the syntax. In which data table you want to add? It's on DT1 I want to add. Click on OK. Just connect this particular thing to your data table. So earlier we don't have a John value. So now we'll have that particular value printed during processing of your particular workflow.
Can you please speak loudly? Your voice is a little bit low.
Oh,
Difficult
yeah,
to.
sure.
One second.
Sure. So we have John, Mail and Bangalore, which was added in the particular workflow here. Okay. So let me just use another activity. So remove data column, data row. So we just need to provide the index. Just go with an index, let's say 0. So where it will delete the Kiran value. In the data table we have DT1. Right. Let me just save the file and run the file. So let's see the basics today. If there is something an application to this particular activities and all, we'll just see when we are trying to discuss the Excel based activities and all. Okay. So if you see earlier, I have a Kiran mail Hyderabad value, but it got removed because like I just want to go with the removal of the particular call, particular row based on the index and all. So I'll just go with another scenario. It's very much commonly utilized across all projects. Let's say that I will add another value called Kiran with male and Hyderabad location. Okay, it's a duplicate value. I'll add another value Sudha. It's female and Hyderabad. Right. So we have two rows of duplicate data. It's of Kiran and Sudha. So let's try to print without using any such sort of activities to remove the duplicate rows. But once we use an activity which is related to removal of duplicate rows, we'll try to see the difference. Let me connect here directly this printing without using any activity. So we have here data getting printed twice for Kiran and Sudha, right? Because it's a duplicate data. So in real time, we don't want to process the duplicate data. So which is of uh, unwantedly doing the same transaction multiple times and all. So we have an activity called remove duplicate rows. So I'll try to use this. You just need to provide in which data table you want to remove the duplicate rows. After removing where you want to store, I want to store in the same data table DT1 itself. Let me save the file, run the file now. Where you can see the difference that the Kiran value as well as Sudha value will be automatically removed from the particular remove duplicate rows. TM. So earlier it was not removed Kiran and Sudha value, though it has duplicates, but now it has a duplicate value, so which can be removed here. Okay, that is what we can do here in terms of using the remove duplicate rows. So it's one of the important activity we'll try to use frequently. So that is one activity. So we'll try to go with another activity called filter data. So let's try to get the filter data. So filter data table. Okay. So here let's see that we have a scenario here. I have people from Bangalore as well as Hyderabad location, which is of male and female, right? Let me just initially go with people who are actually male. So how many data we'll get? So we'll get like three rows of data, which is Kiran, Sai, and Sam, right? So let's see whether we'll get the same data or not after filtering the data table. So double click on it, configure the filter. So we'll have options here. DT1 will pass DT1 as an input. So after filtering where you want to store, I want to save it in the same DT1. So we'll have like two options here whether to keep or remove. So after filter, you want to keep whether the particular rows or you want to delete the particular rows. So here in my scenario, let's say that you have 5 rows of data, which is of male and female. So if I selected remove where I've kept a filter for male, it will keep only the values of female. If I just try to use a first option, by default nothing but keep, and I used a filter of male, it will just keep all the values of male and it will delete the values of female. It's vice versa, whether you want to use it or not use it. Okay. So we need to specify which column you want to go with. I'll use with gender. We have here operations. I'll just make sure that it is equal. We have a empty, starts with, ends with, contains, less than, greater than, all these things we can just utilize based on your requirements and all. I'll just use equal to symbol and I'll say the gender is basically male. Okay, let's see the initials for a filter we just try to use. Let me save the file on the file. So we can see here only Kiran, Sai, and Sam was like getting output as a outcome and all. It really depends upon your business logic. So you have a big data of 1,000 rows and you want to process only mail. You can do that. Let's say that you have a big data where you want to now process only mail from Hyderabad location, not from any other location. So we can also apply the other filter here in the same thing and use organize filter. Just click on your other filter here. Just click on plus symbol. So now I want to filter based on the location. The location should be equals to Hyderabad. Okay, so that is the other filter I can go. It's not that I want to use one filter, two filter based on the business logic. It is 5 or 6 filters you want to go with. You can still use that. But for learning purpose, like let's just go with the basic part here. When we just trying to go with the real-time scenarios and all, there you can get to know all these things. The application of filter data. So now you'll get an output of only Kiran and Sam who are male and basically from the Hyderabad location, HOD location. Okay. So that is what happens with filter data table. So let's see that is your data table. Have add data column, add data row, build data table. We have seen filter data table. Let's see what clear data table does. So clear data table is just have your data, what I can say, cleared. It's a best practice to just make sure your data get clears after execution or before start of execution. So we'll just use the same activity to see what happens before clear data table and what happens after using clear data table. So I'll use a clear data table here and I'll just connect my message box to the existing clear data table. So we here have a message box to get the rows and the columns count here, right? So let me just use clear data table. So we just want to use only one input, pp1. So let me try to run the file. So before clearing what is the rows count and after clearing what is the rows and columns count. That is what we want to see here. So it was 5 and 3 before clear data table activity and after it was 0 and 3. Okay. So it's like removing all the data that was available inside your particular data table. Schema will not be deleted, but the role value for processing the data will be actually. Okay. So that happens using your clear data table. Fine. So let me also just keep this clear data table aside. So we just go with other activity. We have whatever we have seen, whatever we have seen. So we'll try to go with the sorted data table now. Let me just add another column here. Basic understanding. I'll use age. I'll randomly just provide the age. 29, 43, 19, let's say, so 26. Okay. So based on the data I have here, I want to process data where it is actually from the lower age. Let's say that. So I want to process data where people are lesser age. Let's say that it's starting from 19. First, I need to process that. Second thing I need to process is 29 years person. Sorry, 26 years. Then the 29, and 30 and 40. So I want to process the data. uh, So based on my priority, it is basically like lower age people should be processed earlier, and like people who is having more age should be processed later, right? So I just want to make sure that it was arranged, sorted based on my requirement here. So let's see how we can sort it. So let me try to print without using any, what I can say, any activity here, like sort data table and all. And let's see how we can go with after utilizing a sort data table. Let me just connect this. I'll use activity called sort data table. We have data table DT1. Input is also basically DT1, and which column name you want to basically go with. I'll go with age, and whether you want to go with ascending order or descending order. I'll go with the descending order. So basically, you'll get now values from the descending order. Basically, you'll get person with more age at the top and less age at the bottom. So we have 5 rows, 4 columns. And seeing the data here, we can see the first data that is getting processed is 43 years, then with 30, then with 29, then 26, and then we can just go with either descending order or ascending order based on your sort data table. Where I'll go with ascending order again, save the file, run the file. So we can see here now the data is getting processed from the increasing order. It's 19, 26, 29, 30, 40. It's increasing, right? So you have now data in form of ascending order. Fine. So that is what we can try to utilize in terms of the usage of sort data table. So now let's try to see how to actually, what I can say, loop inside your particular data table. Okay. For looping, we'll try to use generally for each. Since it was a data table, we'll try to go with for each row in a data table, right? Just keep these things aside. Each row in a data table. Current row in what? DT1. What you want to do? Use a message box. And I want to print all the values from the column called name. So I'll go with current row of name. So that is what you need to provide. Save all, try to run the file. So where each row, I'm like each loop, you'll get a row item here. We have Kiran, we have Sai, we have Priya, so we have Sudha, and finally we'll have Sam as the values. You can also provide with the what I can say index instead of name. Let's try to provide index 0, so you get the same values getting printed. The same values getting printed. So it's not that only one thing you can go. You can also go with similarly current row of gender family you want to see in the same message box. We can still get that. Toasting. Run the file. So we have like Kiran mail, Sai mail, we have Priya female, we have Sudha female, and Sam male. Okay, so when you have a data to be processed in a transactional process and all, you'll get the data in an Excel or else a database, or else you know download the reports, or else like, you need to get files in a particular folder and all each file in a folder. So all these things will help us in getting the data here in terms of repeating or looping. So for each row in a data table, we'll try to loop in such a way. So that is one example I can go with. Okay, so that is using for each row in a data table. Use assign. Let me just go with one method here. So one dot zero. So no, somebody before asked me, let's say that I want to update this particular Kiran value. Like let's say a particular row and column. So we have Kiran here, right? So it is in rows and columns. So it's on 0th row or 0th column. Okay. Let's say that this is the value you want to update 43. It's on which row? 0, 1, and 2. On which column? It's like 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3. So we need to provide like 2, comma 3 to update this particular value. So these one I just want, this is the value I just want to update Kiran. Okay. It's 0, 0, like 0th column, 0th row value I just want to update. Right. So instead of Kiran, I want to update with Kishore here. So I'll use an assign here. I'll use an assign activity. So in the data table DT1 of 0th row and 0th column, I want to update that value with Kishore. Whereas like you can update any value, it's not Kishore. You want to update with UiPath. Okay. So let me try to run the file, see whether Kiran was getting the best with UiPath or not. We can see here the Kiran value got updated with UiPath, right? Where we need to provide which row, which column, index you just want to just change. Right? Fine. Are we clear till now? Where the basic part? How can I change Kiran location to Bangalore? So, same thing, like we need to update the particular value there based on the particular condition and all. You can do that. It's like Kiran, what is this? Open location. It's 0, 1, 2, 1, 3. 0, 1, 2. So I'll say 0 of 2. We have 0 of 2 updated with Bangalore here. Try to run the file. So if we can see here, like the Kiran value got updated with Bangalore, right? So deleting is also same thing, assigning with the empty value that we can delete a particular value there, or you can just find and replace. You have lots of activities inside your Excel too. When we're discussing about Excel based activities, you'll come to know or you try to utilize all these things. Okay. So that is what I can say in terms of basic part. We have seen how to create a data table, how to delete a row, delete a column, add a column, delete a column, get the rows count, columns count, how to convert your data table to basically a string variable using output data table, how to filter data table, how to remove the duplicate rows, how to actually sort your data table. And all. And also, we have seen how to update individual items and all inside your particular data table. And all. And we have also seen how to actually uh, iterate inside your particular data table too, right? That is what we can do. Let's see other set of activities in terms of data table. Then, a get row item is similar thing here. So get row item is similar thing you try to utilize inside your for each, and you're trying to pass which column you want to get here. Okay. So let me use that inside the for each row data table. So in the message box, you'll use get row item. So we need to provide what is the column name you want to get. So I want to get in terms of the name. Okay, after getting you want to store that in str name. Okay, and you're passing that str name here. Okay, so row is current row in the loop. Fine. Let me just save this. Where you get all the names getting printed using get row item. So we have Kiran, we have Sai, we have Priyan, we have Sudha, we have Santu, right? Similar thing like using current row of column name or current row of index, or else you can try to even go with the get row item also. Okay, so that is what we try to go with using get row item. Let's see what is this update row item, which is new to me also, since you will have a lot of updated versions coming now and then. So row containing the column whose value to set. New column name, update row item. Okay, I just need to see this update row item. So I'll just tell you in the next session. We have seen remove duplicate rows, all these things. Okay, so let's see this thing like generate data table from text. So in some scenarios, what happens is you have your data here in this uh, textual format. Let's say that Sai, male, but we have male, male, we have Sam, male, we have Sudha, female, female from Hyderabad. Okay, so we can observe that this is the data in form of a text, but it has some structure, right? So every time you try to separate a column, it was separated with comma, and every time the values you see a new line is having a newer row of data, right? Now this data I want to convert that particular unstructured data into some structured data here. Okay, so for that I'll use a generate data table from text. Just go with a new workflow here. Text, text to call, text to data table. First of all, my data was there in a text file, right? I need to read that. I'll use read text file. You need to provide where is your file located on my desktop. I have something called try catch. This is my text file. After reading, you will store your data in a string variable strvar. Okay. So you need to pass that thing inside your data table here. Generate a text from data table, right? So generate data table from the text. So input options we need to provide. This is my sample data, right? This is my sample data I want to test. Here, its column separator is a comma. So this is the comma which is separating my columns. And the new line separator is basically a new line. So every time you'll have new line that is starting with a row, right? So I'll just go with the preview. We can see that it was now separated to name, male, and also the location based on the schema I have provided. Okay, so we can also get the data here where I say that my first row is basically name, gender, location. But I want to use this thing as my data for use first as column headers. We'll just go with the preview. If it says like name, gender, location were the headers in the particular text what we have here. So we know the structure every time it starts with the particular things and all. You can just use this particular thing. So and also sometimes we'll have the fixed width columns and all. Let's say that every time we'll have data like account number, and you will have like gender, and you'll have a location. It's based on the codes. Let's say that every time your account number is 4 number value male, and you have the location. It's in code value and India. So we have like 56456. You have female is from a different location, Germany. So we'll have code like this every time. Okay, pixel and right 467. Right. So this thing also you can extract. So you need to just do some R&D on this particular thing. So yeah, It's like trial and error method. You just want to go with based on which you will get the data as per your requirements. So let me just save this file where you want to get the data here. So I'll just click on OK. After saving where you want to store the data, I want to store it in DT1. After saving this, I want to write it back to the Excel. So input is basically str where, and you have your data getting written back to the Excel. I'll use right range workbook activity to just write it back to the Excel. So I have a file in the desktop. So input data initeller, this is the data. So sheet name is sheet 2. If the sheet is not there, it will automatically create. And what is the data you want to write? I want to write in DT1. And make sure that you are adding headers. Okay, so let's say that I don't want to write down this particular Excel. You want to automatically create the Excel also. If it's not there, it will create. Sample data is the file I want to write. If you can see on the desktop, there is no Excel file with the sample data. So here the bot is smart enough that like it can create an Excel. If the sheet is not there, it can still provide a new sheet to be created and all, and it will automatically add the values to that. Okay, so you can see here the data is written in sample data Excel file. Where we have data in terms of name, gender, and location, but that was not separated. Let me just see the I have written. It's on DT1. We just need to add the headers. That's generated with input data of str where. Okay, options. Let me just see. Columns are separated with comma. New line. Just click OK. I think those values were not provided earlier. Maybe I've just removed that. So let me just delete these values. Save it back. See whether we are getting accurate data or not. So let me open the Excel file. So now we have got the data which is required to us. Okay. So now we have got your data which is there from this text file, which is not in form of rows and columns, but we have converted that to data of rows and columns, right? That is what we can see with generate data table from the text. Okay. Any doubts as of now? Please do let me know. I'll there to solve you the queries. So we'll see the other set of activities in the tomorrow session. We'll try to cover the remaining part where we have join, lookup, merge, and also update row item, right? So these are the four set of activities we'll try to discuss in the next session. Okay, fine. Any doubts, please do let me know. Otherwise, like we'll just try to end the session.
So do we have any difference between for each row in table and the get row item? No, right? It's the same, right?
So yeah, for each row in a data table, so we have two set of activities here in terms of for each here. Okay. you search it for each year, we'll have all these things that was related for each set of action we try to perform here. So why this for each row in data table is utilized? Because when you try to loop inside your data table, it is best advisable to go with the for each row in a data table. Okay. And inside for each row in data table, if you want to loop the particular row and all, you want to get the particular items there, you can directly go with the current row of name or current row of index, which will give you the row values of a particular column in each loop. Plus, you can directly go with an activity called current like get row item, where you can get a row item from the each loop inside your for each row in a data table. So earlier, this particular activities was not there. So we used to directly go with the current row of zero, current row of one, current row of two. So now it was updated with some set of activities where you can directly use the activity to get the rows from the each column. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Fine. Hope we are clear. I think we'll just wind up the session. So tomorrow,
Please share the recording. Please share the recording after the session.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, definitely. So it will be shared by PowerThread itself. Uh, Maybe like if he is available tomorrow, he'll be just continuing with the session. If not, like for a couple of days, I'll be just taking the basic pattern. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah. You too. Bye bye.